Welcome to the Hunter Report, and today we're going to talk about frames. There are so many different frame sizes that I went crazy, okay? I went crazy. This all came about because I went ahead and I bought this 16 by 20 frame. I wanted the biggest frame I could get in the store for a reasonable price. There are $100 to $200 to $300 frames. This baby was $7, I believe, and I said, well, it's $7 and it's pretty big, so why don't I get it? The problem is that this frame is a 16 by 20, which has an aspect ratio. You see here, I have a list of aspect ratios. It's an 8 by 10 frame. Now, let me tell you why that's bad. I don't like 8 by 10. As far as I can tell, the reason that the 8 by 10 format exists is because it's the classic headshot format. And I think there's probably a lot more history to it that I don't know. But most cameras do not shoot in 8 by 10 format. Most cameras shoot in a 3 by 2 format, which if you look over here is a 4 by 6 and 8 by 12. Now, forget about all these wonky numbers. Let me show you some actual examples so that you can make sense of what I'm saying. This right here is an 8 by 10. It's okay because it's a beautiful shot, but I definitely had to crop it. And cropping a photo totally changes the look and feel. This is an 8 by 12 frame, and just let me put them on top of each other, okay? You see, I had to crop out all of this. You see how his face is cropped out and his shirt is cropped out? And this is before I understood, things about the frames, which I now understand. You see, after doing this exercise, and really it's this cheat sheet right here that allowed me to understand the difference between frames. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead, literally after I finish shooting this video, I'm going to go and return these 4 16 by 20s, and I'm actually going to go for, if we look here, you see, I got a 16 by 20, which is basically a 4 by 5 or an 8 by 10. So that's not what I want. What I want is the biggest that I can get in the 3 by 2 format, which is a 12 by 18 or an 8 by 12 or a 4 by 6. But 12 by 18, because the prints for a 12 by 18 are only, they're less than $5 a print. The moment you jump from 12 by 18 to 16 by 24, the cost of the prints go from under $5 a print, at any online high quality photographic printer. They go from $5 a print to $15 a print. So my idea is to have about 4 of these frames on the wall, and then as the years go by and as a particularly inspiring shot occurs, like this one, a famous jazz musician, Johnny O'Neill, and all of his students, which was an awesome night, completely off topic. But as the years, I can make these prints without destroying the bank all that much. So I'm going to go for 12 by 18 because it's the 3 by 2 form factor, which is this baby right here, which is the difference between cropping into an 8 by 10, again, versus the 8 by 12, okay? And 99% of cameras shoot in the 3 by 2, which is this guy right back here, 8 by 12, 4 by 6, 12 by 18 ratio, okay? So you're gonna have to crop in order to get into an 8 by 10. Now, let me just explain to you what aspect ratios are, a little bit of the history, okay? So here we have a whole bunch of photographs, right? But there's other aspect ratios that have, and it's created this entire historical mess. Let me show you a quick example right down here. This is a 14 by 20 frame. Now, 14 by 20 doesn't fit right here on the aspect ratio chart. So the question is, what the heck is 14 by 20, and why do frame makers make frames for it? So if you do the math, you'll see that the, now this column right here, okay, is when you take the big number and divide it by the small number. 1.25 is 5, and you see it goes 125, 133, 14, 15, so it's always going up. So basically, this over here on this side, this means it's a square. We're going from square. So 8 by 10, okay, is more. Let me show you again. Yeah, as you see, here's the 8 by 10 frame, here's the 8 by 12. An 8 by 10, you can see, is more of a square than a rectangle, okay? So as we go here towards the aspect ratio, it becomes a square. And they do make square frames. I just didn't want to put it on here. And as you go out towards this way, it becomes almost super rectangular. Okay, so 3 by 2. And then in movies, you have 16 by 9, which is even more rectangular. So I'm not even talking really about movie aspect ratios, although I'm going to get into that just a little bit. Again, why does this 14 by 20 frame exist? Okay? So it's not a movie aspect ratio, the 14 by 20. What 14 by 20 is a standard ISO paper size. Okay? And these paper sizes were created back in the days when printing presses were more prevalent, so that you could print a newspaper, hint, 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 and look at that. I happen to have a newspaper framed up in this. I think that's sort of coincidental or ironic. But you could print a newspaper in these standard ISO paper sizes. So they started making frames to match the paper sizes. This was also in the day of 35 millimeter film. Now, 35 millimeter film typically is in the 3:2 ratio, which is why, and now I'm going to put this frame down and just get into the final segment of this talk, which is why cameras, okay, typically follow the 3:2 ratio. Now, I happen to have, this is a Sony a6000, it's an APS-C sized camera. So the sensor is slightly smaller than a full frame sensor. What full frame means, okay, is that it's 35 millimeter. It's the exact same size as the 35 millimeter. So you could take a 35 millimeter lens from ancient history, put it onto a camera. I do have some here, but hopefully you can figure that out. But this is a full frame lens on an APS-C camera. It doesn't change the aspect ratio, it simply magnifies the lens. Again, that's a completely other topic called crop factor, which has nothing to do with aspect ratios. The crop factor does not change the aspect ratio. So this APS-C size camera shoots in a 3:2 aspect ratio. Now, you can go into the menu and slightly tweak the aspect ratio. I'm not going to show you that, but the one thing I did want to show you is this Panasonic Lumix camera. And this is called the Micro Four Thirds mount. Now there is a reason. The sensor size on this baby is a different sensor size than your full frame or APS-C sensor size, which I have here in my left hand. So let me explain the difference. This is called Micro Four Thirds, and I don't want to drop the equipment. You see here that there is a 4/3 frame size. So yes, you can take still photos with the Micro Four Thirds, although I wouldn't suggest. You can put this camera into 3:2, okay, for photographs. This is both a photo and a video camera. I bought it for video purposes. And I understand that I'm only leaving you with more questions now and more confusion, but by covering all of these topics in a sort of related fashion under one video, I think you're beginning to understand. If you have any questions, just leave them below in the comments. But where I wanted to go, why does Micro Four Thirds exist? Well, it's not really a photographic format, it's a videographic format. Micro Four Thirds is a 4/3 format, which is the typical television frame size, okay? So it happens that this tool, this camera, has a sensor that is designed for that television frame size, but it can be used for photography as well. And that is the interrelationship between aspect ratios, cameras, paper sizes, and making prints. Okay, if I'm going to put my cameras down here, close out the segment. If you're not making prints with your photographs, what's the point? I make prints. See, I'm actually going to give this print to Johnny, okay? And so when I make a photograph, it's to give, it's to share with the world, not just electronically though, to give somebody that print, a high quality print. When you frame a print, it makes it look more beautiful, makes it look more permanent. It allows people, you see it has these two hooks back here, to hang it onto the wall, okay? And it also protects the photograph for many years into the future, as long as you don't put it into sunlight. So, I think we've covered enough bases here on the topic of frames. This is the Hunter Report. Please subscribe, please give me a thumbs up, and check the description below if you want to purchase any of these frames for your beautiful photographs. See you soon.